Sorry.
There's a bit background noise. If you can be a bit louder, that would be great.
Okay, can you go to the next speaker? I'll come back maybe.
Sure. Hemindra from Venture Frontier Lanka and Peru.
Hi, thank you, Sasmini. So, my initial introduction to entrepreneurial world in Sri Lanka was way back in 2015. I left my 12 years of working life for Dialog Asiata, and then I started my first entrepreneurial venture with my current business partner 𝐿𝐻𝐻. We started. 𝐻𝐻𝐻 was actually running a startup while he was at Moratuwa. Then I became the first investor for him, and today we run a small startup. I would say it's a small and medium startup. It's not a startup, it's a software company right now. We have about 35 engineers working now. So that was the starting point. After that, I got involved with another startup with 𝐻𝐻𝐻, that was 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻. Today we have a biomedical product with US patent and a Japanese patent. Then later with another entrepreneur, Hasanka, I co-founded 𝐻𝐻𝐻, which is it's a not for really money-making venture, which we started as a like a social innovation. Now, of course, we run a full-time. We earn money, we earn profit, and all that. So it's a 𝐻𝐻𝐻. We have an online store. We deliver anything up to anything that you want to plant a tree. So that's our tagline. And then very recently we started another social venture for plastic recycling called Zero Trash. Today we run a 10-ton plastic facility at Bodulaskamua. So that was my entrepreneurship ventures that I started. And of course 2018 I started Venture Frontier Lanka to support. It's a kind of guaranteed company to support startups in Sri Lanka. So in between I was worked as the chief innovation officer for University of Moratuwa for about 2 years like a consultant, and then I was at Sri Lanka Institute of Nanotechnology as a chief operating officer for another 2 years. Now I'm full-time entrepreneur, but of course I work for a few companies, organization on consultant basis, on short duration. So right now I'm attached to Sri Lanka Technological Campus as well as a director. So that's my a little bit of myself. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Hemindra. How about you, Sankalpa?
Thank you. Thanks everyone for inviting me to share a little bit about my story with you all. So starting about myself, I was not originally from entrepreneurial background. It was more about a very traditional form of, I think, a studious student with sports, right? And who never had any sort of special focus, but being a little bit of studious. However, used both of these sports capability to build friendship network and being studious to be a fairly decent analytical capable person and getting into electronics and telecommunication. And then back in 2000, I started because I ventured into and along with the, we had a few digital companies. So I was having a dream to, because from my electronics background, I wanted to build hardware, so design embedded systems. So with that journey, I have to go and sell the capabilities of me and my own colleagues to some of the international veterans, right, who are expat Sri Lankans, and they decide, okay, we will try with you into our teams. So today, I think Sri Lankan great students are being searched out from all over the world, but I'm talking 2000, back in 2000, even just before .com bubble blast. So that's a time where I got into my career. So while I was doing my third year at the university. So selling our capability, that's how I think first I discovered a little bit of my I think, entrepreneur capability. So started work with a small team on building different hardware designs, and then even contributing into open source area from designing many hardware open source. I think we all know open source software, but open source Linux, that's embedded area. That's how I started my journey. Then back in 2006, I have been invited by the same set of known people when they started a different company into IT services, wanted me to build a embedded focus service unit. So played the role purely. It was totally given to me, no goals, everything is mine. Only thing was they just backed, providing me funding, and build that embedded world-class embedded team. And from 2006 onwards till 2012, I built that team. So along with that, the same organization, it came to a certain amount of revenue growth. And then I have been assigned to play the entire growth role as the global head of engineering. So that time it was only about 100 back in 2012. And since 2012 to 2020, just before COVID, the revenue of that organization increased by 6 times by increasing the global capacity of the organization by 3 times. I think both value and quantity. So exponential growth I managed to achieve with that family-owned business. So I think that's where I found a lot of my entrepreneurial skills. I played as an entrepreneur without making anything own. So that's something I want to tell you, because there are organizations that you may not, entrepreneurship doesn't mean you have to own. So it's a myth. So I think that's how I started my journey. And latter part, I co-founded Sri Lanka chapter of 𝐒𝐫𝐢, which is consists of such 16 different entrepreneurial different companies, and went into Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Now I'm part of that bigger organization, which still continuing organization entrepreneurial culture. I'm part of a senior leadership to maintain that entrepreneurship culture at the organization. So this is very briefly about me and my entrepreneur journey.
Thank you, Sankalpa. We can move on to you, Ahmed, if you are ready.
Yeah, how is the audio now? Is it better?
Really good.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, so like I don't know how much you heard about me. So yeah, I right now currently work for UNDP, and as part of UNDP, I work at 𝐶ITRA Social Innovation Lab, which is like a social innovation lab, a structure where we experiment and do a public program. I started out at ICTA with 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐿. 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐿 used to be my manager before there. For the last, I think I'm in my 9th year now in the startup ecosystem, supporting startups, supporting entrepreneurs, build startups. You know, I have gone all around the country talking to young people in all 3 languages. You know, and try to understand what they are going through, what kind of support they need, and you know, supporting them in various different programs. I also co-founded Disrupt Asia, which was the startup conference or exhibition, whatever you like to call it, back in my days at ICTA with 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐿 and a couple of other colleagues. So yeah, that's in short about me. Looking forward to the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Ahmed. And just like I said, a stellar panel with a multitude of experience, from corporate to government to private sector organizations to their own startups to everything. So this is going to be quite an interesting conversation. And as we have heard about the background and journey of each panelist, let's dive into the hot topic. And 𝐶𝐮𝐬𝐿. So why do we need entrepreneurs in this country? We can start with you.
Sure. So the startup ecosystem journey of Sri Lanka is quite interesting. Of course, entrepreneurs have been there in our country for a long time, and that's how new businesses was formed, entrepreneurship as a concept. But the term of startups, I would say, got into mainline or mainstream back in about 2010, and especially that was driven by technology. So the tech startups were kind of I would say, an area that we were trying to promote back in the day. So right now, I think it's becoming something students are aspiring to. And for your question, why is entrepreneurship needed, and why is startups and tech startups needed? If I take into that question, so entrepreneurship is, of course, because you're solving problems which are out there, and without depending on other people to do it, you yourself is taking the onus and solving a problem and figuring out how it can be sustainable. And that's, I guess, the core of entrepreneurship. But when it comes to startups, we also talk about entrepreneurship which can be scaled, companies which can go global, and especially tech has been highlighted in this area because it can scale fast. Barriers to entry is quite less. You can start a business very fast. And then there are so many tools out there which is not of a lot of cost, which you can use now because of the technology advancements. You don't have to build things from scratch. So with that, the technology related entrepreneurship has been an area which has really led economies of the world. If you take Sri Lanka itself, it's the IT sector in our country, IT BPM sector in our country brings about 1.7 billion of export revenue, 1.7 billion of export revenue into the country. And that's an estimate which is of the lower side. And we as the industry kind of estimate that it could be even more. And as a digital economy, when I say a digital economy, this will entail all the different possibilities of bringing in revenue through digital. It would mean freelancers, it would mean entrepreneurs, it would be in the bigger tech industry. So all of that together, we have counted it being close to 5% of the GDP of Sri Lanka. And it can be even more because we have just started counting it, started putting a value to it. So as an economic driver, entrepreneurship and startups has a key role to play. So there are very different avenues of economic driving that it could do. It could bring in export revenue by selling whatever software or service that they're doing. It will also provide their tech enablement to other industries, which could increase its productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness, and therefore increase its revenue. And if they are into the export business, they will increase their export basket and bring in more export revenue. If it's freelancers, they will have platforms that they will bring in revenue on their own, very different types of things. And as startups, not only do you export, you also attract investment. So some value that we currently know of our ecosystem, which is called the startup ecosystem value, is $228 million. That is counted by Startup Genome, and that is counted based on the investment attraction of these startups for a period of 2.5 years. And how much of investment has it attracted, and therefore they do extrapolation to understand what the valuation is, which means even during the period of 2019 to 2020 to 2021, end of 2021, our startups attracted these investments. There are another form of attracting investment, which is also selling your business. We call it exits. So there are many forms of how startups can contribute to the economy, especially when it comes to monetary value. So I will focus a bit on that so that other speakers can focus on other areas, how entrepreneurs and startups contribute. Thanks.
Thank you, Sachendra. So I will move on to Ahmed next. Ahmed, with your experience from both, the past experience from both government and also now in private sector, what is your take on why we need entrepreneurship in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I think very similar thoughts to what Sachendra said, right? It's kind of like it's one main way there in which you as an individual or as a company can contribute to the economy, right? Sachendra talked a lot about technology startups, right? during my 5 years at ICT, I used to work with a lot of technology startups, but over the last 3 years, I've been also working with businesses. I wouldn't say they are startups, but companies who have started, new entrepreneurs who have come up newly in so many different sectors. Agriculture, it can be agriculture, like different sector. I'm just blanking out right now, right? But the amount of contribution that they can bring in, right? Especially now, our topic today is, how can during a crisis, right? Now, if you take agriculture companies who are starting out in agriculture area, right? There is talk going around about a food crisis happening and all that, so startups like this, I'm using startups for the lack of a better word, right? Startups like this can contribute immensely because they can bring in that technology which has been missing in the sector, in the agriculture sector, right? When you look at technology in agriculture, there is looks like to the looks of it, it's some of the large companies are only using technology, right? But companies like Turu, which co-panelist 𝐬𝐿 and founder, right? They are bringing that technology to the masses, right? Now, even if you have a garden at home, you are able to use some form of technology, not information technology, but some form of technology to grow something on your own, right? Which can reduce the burden on the state and the need for imports and whatnot, right? This also supports the economy in some way, right? We can bring down the cost of importing food items, or bring down the requirement of even import. I see a lot of my friends online on social media who have started home gardens right now, right? Not in small scale, even sometimes in big scale, right? So just taking agriculture as an example, right? So like this in the different sectors, in manufacturing, in agriculture, all of this, when you start, I mean, when you start, especially when you do exports, right? It can be a product or even service, right? When you do exports, you're bringing in the much needed dollars, which we keep talking about these days, right? So these are all things that as entrepreneurs, y'all can support, right? Or y'all can contribute to us. So yeah, that's, I think, my take on this.
Thank you, Hamid. I think I agree too, because the contribution of startups for different sectors is massive. Like, a startup can take a very small idea like vertical gardening or home gardening and make it like an entire social trend, which will help and contribute to the economy of the country, and also for the agriculture, and maybe solve one or two food crisis that we will face in the future, I guess. So yeah, thank you so much for that insights as well. 𝐬𝐿, so as a serial entrepreneur, what is your take on this?
Yeah, I think now Sri Lanka, if you look at the whole what happened in the last 20 to 30 years, and of course, maybe last few years we went down in a spiral. But if you look at the long term, say last 20 to 30 years, we know that there's a severe lack of entrepreneurship in the country. Even if you look at the certain figures that we have, one of the lowest in terms of the population to entrepreneur ratio. So these are, again, when it comes to innovation, we are one of the backbenchers. I think Sachindra knows best. We are 104th out of Global Innovation Index, which actually we went few steps back in the last couple of years also. So there are certain issues related to how they took the certain numbers, and that we need to sort out something, but still we are sort of backbenchers. So I think in terms of, if you look at the technologists, the engineers, maybe other professional that you are talking about, we are quite good. I won't say that we are in the latter parts of, compared to other countries, we have done really well. But when it comes to entrepreneurs, innovators, there's a severe issue in Sri Lanka. And we have a very good innovators, but if you look at the numbers as a percentage, it's very low. I think that explains why in I mean, a lot of areas, for example, we talks about big businessmen in the country, but entrepreneurship is not about creating a big business. Entrepreneurship is about solving the problems that we have in the country and outside the country. And in that sense, I think we are lacking very severely in entrepreneurial skill set. So I think that need to, at least if you have to get that real need to sort that out, at least now, because we know that everybody is facing issues now. For example, even our Turu business, we are actually booming. The Turu business is booming. If you look at the numbers, yesterday we did about 8 lakhs of sales. Today about 3 lakhs of sales. So we are really doing well. But then we know that a lot of things we can't do because fuel is a big issue for us. We can't. Even if we get the sales, we can't deliver the lot of sales that we do because of the fuel issue. So there are other issues that we need to sort out. And of course, as a solitary organization, we can't sort all the issues. So those are the things that we really push us down now. For example, sometimes when we get certain orders, we have to tell the customers we can't do it on this particular day. So naturally we can see there's a severe issue of the lack of entrepreneurial skill set in the general public. And whatever that the business mind is there for making a quick money. So that is not entrepreneurial skill. I think that's the issue that we see everywhere. You will know that when you see the petrol queues. That's not entrepreneurial skill set, that's something else. Especially, I don't want to tell the details.
Yes. Thank you, 𝐬𝐻𝐸. I think not just the lack of entrepreneurial skills, mostly it might be also lack of that initiative to start on your own and figure things out as well, which might be another cultural aspect that we need to address in a separate, different session. So Sankalpa, as a system entrepreneur and an advocate for entrepreneurship, what are your thoughts on this?
So I guess right now, what's the role of entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem to face the challenges or the crisis we are facing, right? So very interestingly, crisis is a series of problems. Problem is man-created things where humans are unsatisfied, totally unsatisfied. So such a scenario and people are not seeing a solution, I think that's very likely we can say a crisis, right? So this is what we are seeing. There's a ton of problems. So when we someone is try to solve that one, there's another series of problems in the ecosystem. So we are seeing that. So I think taking him in his own word, so entrepreneurship is all about problem solving, right? Now we are in a massive bag of problems. So I think for us to come out of this one, is there a way, a silver bullet? No. Can someone just simply implement a policies and take us out of this mess? No. The reason is that compared to good 60 years ago, 70 years ago versus today, systems are so dynamic. We are very much interconnected with the rest of the world, right? So if you were in 1950s, I think we could have set everything from policy level and do that. So I'm not undermining the value of policies. Policies should be there, but I think typically how in 50s what happened was very high level. We set policies, thereafter we craft, go into well-defined procedures, and we send out what we call budget, what is gazettes and all, right? It doesn't work. So we have seen, right? There's a joke. Today we send out a gazette, next day we are reversing gazette. That's why it is happened, because we are in a so dynamic global connected ecosystem. A given problem one place, we think this is the way to run, and we try to take a waterfall approach, right? I'm taking the word from software industry itself, waterfall approach, and we try to solve it. It doesn't work. So that's why Sasmini, the entire, I think, digital or the software industries try to revolutionize. What they try to do is not introducing, I think, process or procedures or government is defining a lot of things, they let people to come up with total new things, new way of doing things, right? So internet never defined or put a blueprint and came out, right? Internet was just connected. Once you have the dots, we connect the dots and then we define a policy. So if I tell you the current economic crisis we are in, I don't think we would be able to solve this simply by traditional way of defining a policy. So I think there are certain things has to be done. What they have to do is bring the very simple economy enablers. Few things such as bring back the trust, right? Bring back good people, let good people to work on there. So reduce the corruption, give opportunities equal ground. That sort of enablers we have to do. They are not policies, right? And then we need to make sure the people who are at the grassroots level, who can solve the problems, we need to invite them to come and try to solve them. So that is what it should happen. In this journey, I see three types of entrepreneurship. One is a social level of entrepreneurship. So I think most of us are playing on that social entrepreneurship part. Even right now, IEEE, you all are doing that. We are creating that ecosystem for many others to do good things. So where we are not making I think direct financial thing, but still we try to make it a sustainable model. And then in same line, I think even the politics, I think is part of that social entrepreneurship for me. I think when politicians are not social entrepreneurs, we Heming the very nicely told, right? What's the difference between a big businessman or a buying and selling, or someone try to make a buck out of a crisis versus someone who is going to solve a problem? I think we call them as entrepreneurs, right? So we need social entrepreneurship among our next politicians. We cannot expect just flashy figures who comes and bluff and go out. It cannot happen. So that social entrepreneurship at politics level, non-politics level, among ourselves, around our environment, lot have to be implemented at this moment. That requires entrepreneurial skills. But what it means is problem-solving skills. Then obviously we know startups, traditional way of definition of startup should be there. On top of that, as I told you, my entire experience comes from being an entrepreneur. There are already established entities, right? Things. So they, again, those all existing organizations cannot just simply wait and watch. I think for them to survive and for them to make a sustainable organization, they need a lot of people within their organization. They may be cash rich, they can invest, they may have some contacts, but they need some people who can understand the problem, who has the empathy towards the problem, then who is willing to carefully define the problem, who is willing to find many different possible answers, try them, right? Experiment, test and learn, figure it out what would be the best answer, and then roll it out and figure it out what are the other obstacles coming out and make it a sustainable thing. So even within big organizations, they need that. So I think for the country to get out of this mess, very simple thing we need to make sure we have a hidden entrepreneurial skill, but I think we had a curse, our education system, everything, they are killing that entrepreneurial nerd, right? We are not even solving a very small problem, which is faced by our mother or father. So that's how the entire, our family setup to our school setup, everything is work. But this entrepreneur nerd, we have to take it out. So I think this is what you all are trying to do, right? I think that is there. So we'll all work together and take it out from this youth and make them that great problem solvers. So that's the way we can come out of this mess.
Thank you, Sankalpa. I think in a nutshell, our country needs entrepreneurship to bring solutions to this crisis. A very small idea can cause a revolution in the country, and it is a matter of things like thinking like an entrepreneur with a creative and a problem-solving eyes would help us throughout this crisis as well. And I think that's that was highlighted throughout by all our speakers today. And one more thing that we highlighted, I think, like we have all the human and natural resources to start. And what we lack is the entrepreneurial skills and that initiative to start on your own. And it is just a matter of taking that first step as an individual, starting today. And I must say, we have a vibrant startup community in Sri Lanka, and this might be your first day there. I invite everyone to think about what we just discussed today. So let's move on to the next segment, that is exploring the self-sustenance and entrepreneurship. So one thing about self-sustainability or self-sustenance, it is a skill we develop and as well as a benefit we reap as entrepreneurs. And in the crisis, we have been talking more and more about self-sustaining regenerative practices we should sort of have or inculcate to survive. And building those self-sustaining practices will be important as entrepreneurs. And I would like to explore that path with all our speakers now. And I think I will first pose my question to 𝐬𝐻𝑒𝐵INDA. As a serial entrepreneur who is focused on taking local to global, what are your thoughts on self-sustainability and entrepreneurship?
So I think the word sustainability is something that a lot of people have misinterpreted, especially in big business. So a lot of people think sustainability is, if you can survive in terms of money, is sustainability, which is completely a wrong interpretation. So sustainability, the word itself is about you have to think in a much more larger level. So it's about, obviously, if you have to make money, make profits to sustain in that terms, but there are a lot of other things. For example, you have to be environmentally friendly, you have to be good to your employees, you have to be good to your customers. So it's the entire 360-degree view of everything. Wherever that is, has to be sustainable, not only your your business, it has to be your customers, your suppliers, this entire 360-degree, and your environment. So I think that is the part that we have to make, especially our young generation, young budding entrepreneurs understand. And the whole, if you look at the story of people like the biggest entrepreneurs, for example, even Elon Musk, when he started, what he started was to create, for example, one example, he wanted to see every car that's run on Earth has to be free of fossil fuel. So that was his vision. And he's driving that vision to the level that he gave all his patents to the other companies also in 2018 or 2019. So that's why we can see a boom in a lot of other companies also in terms of technology related to the battery running vehicles, because he had about 80% most of the patents related to the electric car, and he gave it all of them free of charge and made them public. So that's the real example of how entrepreneurial mindset should work. So he has a vision to make every car running on Earth to be an electric car. He knew that Tesla itself can't do that. So he gave all the patents to other companies, including Toyota, to General Motors, to all that, so that everybody can make that car. But one thing that he knew was, he can be 2 steps ahead. By the time Toyota makes the similar electric car, Tesla can be 2 steps ahead. So that's the speed of everything. But what he wants to see is that to generate or the reach that vision, he might even ready to give his knowledge to others. So I think that's the entrepreneurial skill set that we need to make sure that it has to be sustainable. Even if you go for something, it has to be sustainable, supporting yours, not only your customers and your suppliers, even your competitors. So then we think that's the kind of mindset that the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs should build. For example, the competition is always good. A lot of people think competition is something that you have to completely negate, which is completely wrong. Wherever there is competition, you can offer a better service. So I think if you, so in my world of sustainability is that You have to have, if you can come up with a good product, there should be other competitors who's providing a much better product, and then you can improve your products. And then improvement in the sense is the quality plus the cost of the product to everything. So I think that's the mindset, and that's a real spirit of entrepreneurship. I hope I answered. Maybe I'll let others also to add.
Yeah, I think that is a very one side of the story, and I think like the rest of the speakers can add more into that as well. Thank you, 𝐬𝐿. 𝐶𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻, as an ecosystem builder and a tech industry leader, what are your thoughts on this?
Sashmini, can I have permission to share just one slide? That's okay. I can kind of just show this in one slide if it's okay. Is it good?
Yes, I'm going to enable all participants for now.
You've enabled. I just want your permission.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so for Sri Lanka, in terms of a macro perspective and what we are driving towards, it's a startup nation. Startup nation is a concept that Israel started off with a book that they wrote about it. So everyone's copying it. It's fine. So in our startup nation, what defines a startup nation would mean it could be only economic contribution. Like what 𝐬𝐿 was saying, does sustainability mean only economic contribution? So it's not. Even in our macro vision of becoming a startup nation, the first point, that's what I want to show this, is inclusive, positive impact, and sustainable. And when we say inclusive, which means that whatever work that we are doing through entrepreneurship measures should be able to benefit all different type of people. If it's people who have certain disabilities, if it's people who speak different languages, if it's people who are in the different regions. So our customer target group, when we are providing, especially if it's a social impact driven entrepreneur, it could reach to all these different societies. And what we mentioned here is positive impact. I'm just showing this slide for you to see that this is the foundation that our entire startup nation program is also built on. The positive impact would mean that whatever that you're providing as a service or as a product doesn't have a negative impact in the first place. And it has what exactly 𝐬𝐿 was saying in terms of sustainability. We call it the triple bottom line, or we call it the social impact to all your stakeholders, and it's a key imperative. So I just want to share that slide to show that even in our nation's progress, or what we are driving as a community, as ICTA, as a country, this is a very important factor. And we have to learn from the mistakes of other countries which have gone in the path of only looking at economic development, only looking at development in the sense of the high-rise buildings, the economic value it creates, and the entire valuation economy, without looking at entrepreneurs who are really doing things on the ground and providing employment, bringing in revenue, bringing in social impact. So we are more seeing such entrepreneurship taking place in the country. So the best thing about panels for me is I learn a lot from the other speakers. So I've been noting down all those golden nuggets that others have been sharing. So this difference between entrepreneurs and startups, it's not exactly a difference. It's the fact that entrepreneur would be the startup founder, whereas a startup is the organization. Because we use this word kind of interchangeably. Who shared the screen? So I think some are trying to test the screen sharing facility. So that itself is really important, because that startup is run by a founder and also a team. And it's not only the entrepreneurs which should have that mindset, it should be the team. And that's what makes a startup really important, because it's a team collective. And the mindset of the startup should be to not do the mistakes of our previous generations. Let's say our technology industry in the country has been there from 2003. Now, if you think that our new industry, which is now being formed as startups, we should learn from what the mistakes were. We should take the good things and create a totally different culture. We are given the opportunity to create a totally different industry. With this new industry, we don't need to tell people that you need to give room for female workforce, that your environment should be conducive for female workforce, that the produce and the company that you're building should look at being carbon friendly, environmental friendly, and looking at carbon credits or any form of mechanism of how you would reduce your environmental waste. So all that should be now ingrained in the new companies that we are forming. We don't need to again highlight and do programs and say that you need to incorporate this. It should be by design. So sustainability by design, inclusive by design, positive impact by design should be the way I think our country should go forward in our entrepreneurship.
Very true. Just noticing some hands being raised for questions. I just want to let you guys know that you can pose all your questions in the organizers will send a link to in the chat for you to pose your questions. Can we move on to Ahmed? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think thanks, Sachin. I think that was my first experience getting Zoom bombed, I guess. Never seen something. Concept has been there, but never happened to me in a Zoom call before. But whoever is playing whatever the game, I hope you're having a good time, I guess. Yeah, sustainability, I think people consider it as big words, right? But like Sachin said, it's part of the thinking process now. It has to be part of the thinking process, right? Globally, if you take, even if you're going to sell to global clients, right? Most people in the Western world, they're looking at what kind of positive impact you have as a business, right? May it be opportunities or the gender side of things, may it be the sourcing side of things that you have, depending on what you're trying to do as a startup, right? So all these matter, right? When you're doing manufacturing, if you're sourcing things, are you sourcing it from sustainable sources, right? There are the processes that you have, are your processes, following global standards, global practices, so that the impact on the environment, the impact on various other factors are very less, right? Or it's in a positive manner, right? So these are things that, like Sachin said, I think Sachin has spoken a lot about the stuff that I was also going to mention, right? But these are things that you need as a startup. When if you're thinking about a startup right now, you need to think about this, right? You take global companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, and all these guys also, right? Now Google has a target of going carbon free by 2030, right? Or 2030 or 2050, something like that, right? They're already, some of their data centers are carbon neutral right now, right? Microsoft is testing out certain, methods on, how they can reduce the carbon emissions and their energy bills in their data centers and stuff that they do, right? So these are, everyone's looking at this, right? As entrepreneurs, if y'all are starting something, I think that's something that y'all also have to look at, right? Very, very important, especially now. One of the focus areas that I have is social innovations, right? Social innovations and social innovation, right? In this, what we mainly look at is what is the positive impact you have on your beneficiary. When you take as a beneficiary, it can be either a person or it can be either, environment and whatnot even, right? What is the positive impact you have, right? A good example that I take is, some of these taxi hailing apps, right? Like Pick Me and Uber, right? A lot of people don't talk about this, but how they are also, having some kind of a positive impact, right? Like when they, the taxi industry as a whole in Sri Lanka, if you take it, right? How it used to be a very unorganized industry where, the drivers didn't have necessarily have a financial, backing, or they didn't have proof of, having a steady income and all that, right? But with the technology that comes in with Uber and Pygmy, now they are able to show that they have some kind of income. They are able to show that to you, get maybe financial assistance as loans and whatnot from banks, right? This is the impact, I guess, that gets created. I mean, when you take technology, that's kind of like the impact that gets created. And like I said, when I started, when you take agriculture, right? You know that there's a little bit of noise. Can you hear me properly? Yeah. Okay. When you take agriculture, the little things that people are coming up with, vertical farming and hydroponics and whatnot, right? Enable even like I said, even home gardens to start doing little things, right? This makes a very positive impact, and I think when you talk about sustainability, I think financial, like him in the mention that it's not about financial only, but I agree with that, right? It's not about financial only, but your business model also matters, right? That's the financial sustainability also matters, right? You can have very good product, a very good service that you're delivering, right? You could be doing amazing products, you could be doing world class things, but if you don't have your business model right, guys, right? If you don't have, if you haven't thought through your business model, if you haven't thought through how you're going to sell your product, that's going to be another problem for you down the line, right? You might be able to find funding, but then once your funding runs out, right, that's the end of it. So financial sustainability is also important in my opinion, right? It's not the only thing, but that's the learning I guess we should take from this.
Thank you, Ahmed. I agree as well. But let's hear it from Sankalpa as well, and I'll share my thoughts on everything. Yes, Sankalpa, as a tech enabler, what are your thoughts on self-sustenance and entrepreneurship?
So Sasmini, I think this is how I want to start. So sustainability is basically balancing act, right? So all entrepreneurs, we need to have a drive, right? We need to have our self-pride. So that is through that we find our energy to achieve, go for our accomplishments, what we desire. But when we are trying to achieve that part, our own, because if you're not balanced from our psychology itself, we may get into so greedy, right? Then we try to take too much shortcuts, right? So the greediness may be on the money you gain, or maybe on the power you have, maybe on your own ego, because we need money, we need power to drive, we need some amount of ego. If you don't have ego, again, you cannot do these things. But how are you going to balance? There's a balance, striking balance, right? So that's where the real entrepreneur versus someone who make a buck differs. So simply on the term of sustainability for me. So if you have sustainability in your own genes, DNA, in your own personal values, what is going to happen is you are going to inject that with the set of your initial teeth. And then that multiplies, and that is how you build the synergy around your team. That sustainability part. So we call that, once it establishes after about say 1 or 2 years, when we have whatever the number of people, say even 10 or 20 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 16,000 or 2 lakhs, we call that organization culture, right? So when you are at a bigger level, so the culture is being defined by organizational values, right? So we can define our vision, mission to support that sustainability. So in that entire ecosystem, we have financial sustainability. So thereafter, we can see we are talking about environmental sustainability. We are talking about gender sustainability. We are talking about customer sustainability. obvious financial sustainability and innovation sustainability, all these things. So for me, I think sustainability is a subject all our entrepreneurs has to inculcate for us to balance and move forward. And we, as 𝐒𝐫𝐢, we are very much concerned about that sustainability. So that is a time you need to share and expand, as 𝐬𝐿 and others said. You need to work with your competitors to build the environment. Your competitor is not always your enemy. So without that competition, we are losing that ground where we are operating, either sourcing ground or our customer base. Classic example, what we are seeing is some of the construction industry, what has happened to us, right? So what happened to tile industry, what happened to aluminum industry, we killed this entire thing. Now these are not sustainable, that industries anymore. And we killed out a lot of people, all these things. So any business, any of you, when you try to operate for you to go into the long run, just make sure you get into your basics of your values right. That's, I think, taking the interest of time, let me pause on that, but I can talk about that sustainability, values and culture, taking a lot of examples from my own organizations, but let me pause here.
Yes, that is true. So if we are to go on and on about sustainability, we can I think we can make another event out of it, I think. But yes, thank you so much for all the speakers. And I think everyone what highlighted today is as a business or as an individual, you need to think about innovative solutions with a sustainable mindset. And it is not just financial, it is also coming from environmental, business model, governance, customer aspects. And it is an entrepreneurial skill that you need to work on from the start of your entrepreneurship journey. And collaborative mindset and agility can help you to become very self-sustaining businesses or individuals. And it is not something, one thing that was very highlighted by all the speakers, it is not something that we have to practice individually. It is a collective effort. But to start off, you need to start from yourself, and you need to start with yourself. So in this day and age, with the crisis, with this entire crisis going on, if you want to start a business, or if you have a business, I think self-sustaining practices, inculcating those things into your life and to your business is very important. And that is what we highlighted today during this segment. So let's move on so we just explored why we need entrepreneurship, and then we went into self-sustainability and entrepreneurship. And now we are thinking of exploring the potential of Sri Lanka's youth to build an innovation nation. So let's start with Ahmed, actually. So Ahmed, from your experience with the programs you have conducted for the past few years, what do you have to say about the potential of Sri Lanka's youth and important aspects of building a startup at a young age? And we already have established sustainability, of course. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, good question. I mean, last 8-9 years, I think I have probably listened to about maybe about 3,000, 4,000 pitches, right, from young entrepreneurs who want to start something, right? A lot of them, have very innovative ideas. They sometimes think that they have innovative ideas also, right? But I think that spirit of entrepreneurship, which they coming up and at least applying for a program of whatever the program it is, I think that's where it starts, right? Sri Lanka has a lot of innovative young people, I would say, right? I have, like I said, I've traveled all over the island, spoken to a lot of young people, especially. I've seen how differently that they think, how sometimes they think very, very creatively, very out of the box. I mean, because of their personal experiences, being on the ground, right? One thing that I always promote and emphasize that needs to be done is that for the entrepreneurship ecosystem, the startup ecosystem to be decentralized from Colombo, right? Take it to the regions. I see that there are several startup hubs that have been started around the country with the support of ICT right now. So that's a good thing, right? Also, what needs to happen is in these areas, a lot of I would say encouraging as well as motivation has to happen, right? There are a lot of people who want to do something, who have maybe an idea or something, but who don't have the means of doing something, right? They might not, they are a little hesitant to take that first step, right? In my several years of experience, I've seen people from Colombo, right, who are okay to take the next step, to start something, and then halfway through they drop out or they stop, right? Why? Because they've got some other opportunity which they think is much better. Maybe a company has offered them a job which is a high-paying job or some sort of thing like that, and they just drop out of what they're trying to do, right? Very recently, also, I think last year, there was a startup in one of the programs that I work on, right? From a very reputed university in Sri Lanka, team, for five students. They had a very different software, an app that they're building, which I had a lot of faith in, right? It was something that I was pretty sure was going to be a good hit in the market, right? About 4 months down the line, they built the software and everything, and two of the members got jobs, and then they decided that they don't want to continue this anymore, right? I'm sure they would have made more money than their salaried job if they had properly done that app and released it, because it was very different, right? Something that I've not seen something like that before. So like that, I think, but no, that's the state of young people in Colombo, right? Whereas when when I go out of Colombo, like say to the north or the east, and even the south, in Hambantota and some stuff, where I've seen the drive is there, right? The passion is there. They want to do something, right? They have an idea, but it's just that final push, right? I've had entrepreneurs who have called me and asked whether I can talk to their parents and convince their parents to let them do something, right? Sometimes the parents are the roadblock that they have, right? Even 2 months ago, I had an incident. There was a young man from Bulatin, right, who called me and said, "Can you talk to my, father and explain to him why what I'm doing is, will help me or help, or going ahead," right? So stuff like that. So I think that's important. Trying young people, like I said, the potential is there, right? We boast about our engineering. I mean, if you take technology, we boast about our engineering skills, right? How we've in Sri Lanka, we built technology for, that big company, this big company, that client, this client, this Sachin knows what I'm talking about, right? That's what we've been talking about. We talk about how Murato University has been, coming in the first 10 places in the Google Summer of Code. We saw NanoShilpa coming up, second place, I think, at Imagine Cup and all that. So that the skill and this skill is there. If you take technology startup, the skill is there, right? What you guys need to do is, I'm talking to the audience here, right? If you have an idea, you need to first make sure that you're okay to take that risk, right? You will have a lot of people come and tell you, no, don't do this, right? This is not going to work, right? You can go, I'm assuming, since this is IEEE and assuming that most of you are engineering students, right? You will have enough and more people coming and tell you, you can go get a better engineering job, right? be the software engineer, whatever the engineering that you're doing, right? You will have all that, right? But if you believe in what you're trying to do, and most importantly, if you validate your idea, right? This is something that a lot of people miss, right? You might have a good idea, but if you don't validate it, right? You need to absolutely validate it with your customers or your potential customers, right? That this is something that they will need, right? If you can take that risk, if you can validate it, then even if you can spend about 2 hours a day, I would say take it on, right? 2 hours a day to start with, right? Put in that effort, put in that time, right? If you are building a technology product, you can do it from home. Most of the technology products, you can build it from home. Obviously, if it's a software or an app, you can build it from home, right? Unless you need high-tech equipment, you don't need that additional facility, right? Spend about 2 hours, right? 2 hours, say if you have a team of 5 people, 2 hours each is about 10 hours a day, right? If you put that over a week, that's about 70 hours a week, right? That's, I think, enough to start, right? You can get yourself into a certain level, right? And from there, you might have to put in a little bit more effort. You might have to put in a little bit more time, right? That is important. This is, although our young people in Sri Lanka, I see, have a lot of passion and, the drive and all that. What I see lacking in most of y'all is that y'all don't put in that time and effort, right? Halfway down the line, you think that something else is important and you'll drop off, right? All that effort you maybe put in for about 2-3 months is gone, right? You might be just having the learnings only, but you all have dropped out of the project or whatever you are trying to do, right? So there are organizations out there. I'm sure the co-panelists will also talk about, who are there who can support, right? Like IEEE has Innovation Nation coming up, right? Stuff like this, where you can get that additional support if you need, right? I know the startup ecosystem that we have in the country. If you want to talk to someone, if you want to maybe get some kind of advice from someone, you just talk to about 2 people, you will get access to that person, right? That's how supportive this ecosystem is. I have seen that person, right? In one of the programs that I ran last year, I had about 100 resource people who joined to support the startups who are working in that program, right? That's how helpful the ecosystem is. But no one is going to come and knock on your door and say, here's the help that you need, right? As entrepreneurs, as potential entrepreneurs, you guys need to go and knock on their doors. You guys go and need to call them up or text them, reach them, ask for their time, without harassing them, obviously, right? Get their time, and I'm sure they will, maybe spend a couple of hours with you, giving you all some advice and, doing all that, right? So take that support, I guess, from the ecosystem, and if you build your startup, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Haman. And I 100% agree. I think I have seen multitude of events where startup ecosystem players come in, no questions asked, to mentor or to just give their time, especially young budding entrepreneurs with their whatever the questions that they have. And the question you're asking might be something whether it is going to be profitable for me to join a company and work, or whether my startup is going to make profits that will override all of that salary that I will get, right? So it's a simple math that I think when you start, you will, when you get a taste of it, you won't be able to stop actually. Yes, and I think I have the same sort of question for Heminder. I know that you have witnessed multitude of competitions from university to school students presenting their idea to prototype stage startups, right? And what are the potential, what is the potential you have seen through these competitions, and what has transpired after from your experience?
I think one of the, I'll start from the negative side of it. I mean, yeah, positive side is anyway there. I mean, if you look at, say, 15, 20 years ago when I was in university, we never had anything that you can relate to entrepreneurship or startups or innovation. So we never even learned about a word called startups those days. So we didn't know anything about it. But today, at least everybody knows. I mean, anybody, even the people who are going to school, to universities, they know the word and they know what it is, innovation, to all these words. But I think to a certain extent that was transpired through competitions to all this. But the problem that I see in most of the cases is that, this particular hackathons and these competition-minded entrepreneurial or startup initiative or innovation initiatives, they lack some of the key things that you need to have as an entrepreneur. For example, just working a code 24 hours doesn't make you an entrepreneur. I mean, that entrepreneurial skill, that is not entrepreneurial skill, that may be your coding skill. Or the ability to present something really nicely also doesn't mean that you are an entrepreneur. So I think real entrepreneurship skill is tested and shown over a long period of time. So I think that's what is required. If you can show the same dedication, same perseverance, same focus over a long period of time, I think that is more closer to what we call the real requirement that you require in an entrepreneurial venture. So I think that focus should be there for any initiative, either university, anybody who is doing it. I mean, obviously you need to have the pitching events. You need to have, I mean, the sales skill is one of the most important thing for an entrepreneur. So pitching competitions or whatever, that brings that sales skill, or that teaches you how to pitch it nicely, the way that somebody can understand. Investor would really like what your idea, or maybe that going for a much better, longer discussion. So that is important. But the real game is on long term. So I think whatever we do as university students or young people, I think we need to give that focus towards, doing something in a long term. Obviously that, I mean, that's where you will be really tested. So if, say, IEEE is organizing something, I think you have to make sure that you give that long term side to that competition, or to the project or the process that you do. Obviously, you might pick a few good teams through a pitching event or maybe a hackathon or whatever. Then you have to have that long-term support for all these organizations. I think I know ICTA is doing it through Spiralation. It's not just a competition, one-off presentation. You pick a teams and then you provide support for long duration, like 3 months to 6 months. I think that is what you need to have, and it has to go even beyond that. So that is where you can really see the real entrepreneurial talent, which I have done over a period of time. I know, for example, now these days I have been really inspired by one very young entrepreneur. I would call him an entrepreneur, just 19 years of age. This guy has been doing wonderful things in the innovation scheme since the age of like 15, 16, won the 𝐼𝐴 awards, and been the Sri Lanka's best inventor. Now he has realized, he was actually telling me one day, this winning these awards doesn't make any sense. I mean, this is the 𝐼𝐴 award winner, and won some international awards, also got a few patents also, I think, in this time. And even he's telling patents also not going to help anything. I mean, at age of 19, he has understood that. I mean, patent doesn't make any sense unless you take the traction out of it. So I think I saw a lot of potential in this guy. In fact, he has now he's earning money quite a lot through his own entrepreneurial venture, and he's earning money to do a degree. His short-term focus is, of course, he don't want to be a burden to his parents. He want to make money to make sure that he can spend some money on a good degree, a private degree, and make sure that he gets the degree really fast. He doesn't want to go through the government path. Then he knows that it takes a longer time. So he has understood that he wants to get it graduated. He want to earn money through his entrepreneurial venture to make sure that he get the degree at the right time. So I mean, I see a lot of potential in this guy. so I think that's so what we need is the people who has the vision, long-term vision, then the passion to achieve that. So he talks about it, he lives by it, and also the action plan, long-term, short-term, and medium-term action plan to achieve that. So I think that's what really brings the real entrepreneurial skill. And whatever we do as competitions or whatever has to have that long-term action plan in it. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you, Kshementhra. I think that long-term action plan is really, really important too. And we can discuss further a bit more when we are talking about resources as well, available resources. I would like to move on to Sachindra, just to ask this question from your experience with spiralation. I think you can shed some light to the potential of youth who come out of programs like Spiralation and other partner programs that you have witnessed through ICTA. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure, thanks, Asmi. So I think Kshementhra brought it to a very practical point. So which I have two questions for the audience. So after that, how would call it? Zoom bomb, right? Now in my head, what I'm thinking about is then it has dropped from about 103 people to 83 people. Now we've done about 1 hour of talking. So if you know youth mindset, 1,000 talks danawa entrepreneur golo balagana apite me young neve ohoma young එකේ තමයි අපි දැන් ඉන්නේ. So I just want to find out from this audience, because ultimately it's the audience that all this would matter. Can I see a raise of hands? Raise hand again of people who are planning to apply for the innovation competition, the IEEE innovation competition. Can I see a raise of hands? Okay. So they're about
around
10.
13. Oh, yeah, 13. Around 13.
13?
13.
Around 13.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's increasing.
So that's great. So Amika and team will have to work on the numbers a bit. Okay, from those who have raised hands, thank you for Panja Prakashakata Stuti. From those who have raised your hands and maybe others, how many of you are planning to do something on your own? Start a business, entrepreneurial project. Same numbers or less?
Again, I can see around 16, 17. Because the previous one had like around 18, 19. So, yeah. Okay.
So that's great to know. That's great to know. I hope those numbers kind of continue. So bringing to what Kshementhra said, the experience that we have, Ahmad, myself, being in ICTA, is that we do get involved in a lot of competitions. So in terms of inspiring, that's one part of it. We have to create this funnel, which is important. And then we try to handhold or do something in the middle. Now with Spiralation, experience of Spiralation, we realized that we have to do something in between the startup competition and Spiralation, and we started something called Step also. Somebody is also involved, which is something in between. So Sachindra, we've got all the different programs across the at least all across the country, and we've connected them to our program called 10,000 Ideas. So it's here 10,000 Ideas, and then funneled all the competition winners into the STEP program. And we try to understand what that mindset is. So what we realized is, I'm sure you must be thinking like that also. When you're coming into the competition, guys, you need to come with that, what Kshementhra mentioned, that this is something you will do throughout. What we've realized is, after supporting that next step on really taking the competition winners to a level of spinning off your business, there's such a huge drop-off rate. Because it seems that undergraduates can't balance their assignments and their exams and something else. I mean, I can't get, I've been an undergraduate, I've done sports, I've done club societies, I've done 2 degrees, right? So I can't understand why this is not possible. So I think you have to believe in yourself and realize that hard work is a really important thing when you're getting into this space. And I mean, we understand that with 175,000 workforce in the country, which is there in the IT space, we are only looking at building 1,000 startups. That's 1,000 founders being in existence by 2024. We know it's not for everyone. Maybe the competition will have 250 applications, but those who will go forward might be 25. But we need that 25. It's really important because it's those 25 who will build companies who will employ the rest. If Dinesh Saparmadu or Mano Sekaram or Harsha Purasinghe or Lakmini Vijayasundara or the entrepreneurs that we celebrate today, if they didn't build those companies, or Chris Kanagaratna or Jayanta Tissil, all these people that we celebrate today, and I know Sankalpa and Lavi build in Zone 24/7, if they didn't build those companies, you wouldn't have a place to go and work. So everyone is looking at that easy path to find a mechanism to go and work. But we need at least that 10% who will apply for the competition, but not stop there, and then have the mindset of taking it forward. So our experience, Asmi, your question is a total drop-off rate when it comes to really committing time to take it forward. But we also should be happy during a time where everything seems bleak. Everyone is trying to say, "Are degree gala time period." We had 86 applications coming into spiralation. We are really happy about that. That's 50% than what we normally get. But we had 86 founders, and some of them are school going, right? They just finished school, trying to get into higher education. Some are saying that higher education is boring. I just want to do this business. So we have that type of people also who see hope in this country and who wants to solve problems and build a business model around it and provide employment and create economic value. While there is another set of people who feel disheartened and who've lost all that energy. So we need that energy to come from the youth. So, and if the youth doesn't have that energy and have that inspiration and have saying that, let's do this for the country, that hope, we won't have that hope for the country. So even in this entrepreneurship, why we would spend time working with IEEE and the group is that the programs that are there, as Ahmad also mentioned, as Hamid also mentioned, so many people to support. But what we lack is that determined set of people who will get this support and take it forward. Ahmad would say in terms of the social innovation challenge and the multiple rounds of incubation support which was provided, it's really hard to take the team through this huge burden that you guys take on as assignments and exams. I mean, if you're not able to really balance your assignment and exams, guys, it will be really tough going into becoming an entrepreneur where you got to balance so many other things, so many customer demands, supplier demands of so many people. And if you think that entrepreneurship is about being your own boss and being able to manage your life, it's not that. It's not a Chalinda puts this very, very well. You'll be bossed by so many people apart from being the boss for your team. So it's those who have gone through that which have really achieved. So there are so many support programs. ICT itself has 10,000 ideas, which if you get connected, we'll connect you with the entire support network. If you want to, if you are at an idea stage and if you have some kind of feasibility done, we can take you to step and then groom you through that. And if you're at a level of prototype, there is spiralation, and there is more than 110 startups who have gone through this. Just last year itself, within our ecosystem, just did a count. I think we would have seen, in terms of people, including startups and budding entrepreneurs, at least about 1,000 people would have been supported just during 2021. So there is so much of support being given, but we are seeing very less going forward. So I think if you're hitting the nail on the head right now, since it's the last 20 minutes, with all that we have said about the ecosystem, about the thinking, about sustainability, now it comes to you, those who are on this call, which I don't know what you're doing behind the screen, but I really hope some of you are determined to take some of these nuggets which have been shared, and we would really like to talk to you who would want to take that step of doing your own thing and help you in that validation, help you in taking it forward, so that you will be those who swim against the tide. We understand that everyone is going on with, we call it herd instinct. Everyone's going in the same direction. මේක හොඳයි කියලා හිතනවා, අරක හොඳයි කියලා මෙයා රට යනවා, මේක යනවා. මේ කම්පැනි එක හොඳ නැහැ, ඔක්කොම ඒකට join වෙනවා. So that's the usual mentality. But we want to find out from this group of now, how many? 79. කතා කරද්දී අඩු වෙනවා මේකේ. People who will stand out from the crowd. Who will stand out from the crowd. So if you think you are that person, then the awards, do well in your awards, put the competition up, but have your goal setting to work with these people who are out there and really make that change and solve that problem. So I hope those people are here in this call as well. Sorry, Satmi, I kind of diverted it to see if we can really connect with the people behind the screen here.
No problem at all, Sachindrah. I think it was a good diversion, and it is also our next question anyway. So we will be addressing about where they can find the support and everything. And it was really important to sort of everyone to hear what you said about there's plenty of support, there's potential, there's drive. Youth have it all. It is just again a matter of priorities, I think, and understanding how important this is at this time of crisis as well. So the final panelist about the potential of youth in Sri Lanka, Sankalpa, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think we have a good potential set of youth. I think they know the subject matters. But I think something I want to stress them, whether you are becoming your own entrepreneur or you are being connected with another set of doing a social entrepreneurship, whatever thing, there's something we all have to understand. You shouldn't get distracted on your goal, because the moment that entrepreneur, the preneur word itself is, you have your own vision. You have a destination where you have to go. You are having a desire. You are passionate on that journey, right? So when you're on that journey, there can be many distractions. So you can, distractions may be the country itself, the issues. Distractions may be another place. Some of your colleagues has gone to the other side of the green pasture and they are showing very nice pictures. They may be riding on very nice vehicles. You may see very nice job ads at some other place, which is giving you about 3 times your salary. I think you cannot get distracted. That is number one. I think I have identified most of our Sri Lankan youth, even though they have talent, they have great vision, they want to do something. Most of them, they get distracted. So I want to encourage them, don't get distracted. So either you be your own boss and traditional entrepreneurship, or you get connected with the right set of people. In my life, because I'm not a person who love to go alone, right? I always wanted to be connected with the right set of people. And of course, I have managed to, the total amount of wealth I have added to the equation is, I think, maybe 100 or 150 times bigger than I just try to do myself, because that's another art, right, to the economic impact. So we all can select whatever the path, but you cannot get distracted. In my life, so as Sachin said, I have always stood out of the rest of the crowd. They have criticized me. They have just laughed at me on some of my thoughts. When I said in 1999, I told them there would be something to be programmed, hardware can be designed, and we can do that. People say, one of my assignments was, whenever given the assignments, I took, okay, programming electronics. That's how I worded it. I can still remember back in 1999. So I had that dream. So I went for that. When I was searching, I knew equipment, everything was very expensive. I cannot do it myself. Massive that time, unlike today. So I figured it out how to achieve that. I figured it out there are some interesting other partners around the world. And I was doing the same thing throughout. Right? Always got connected with some set of people. Sometimes you may not be able to go that long journey alone. Right? So make sure you find that right set of people. For you to understand whether they are right or wrong, something you have to do is you have to make sure you are right. You stick to your values. So I think this is something I learned in terms of discovering whether your partner is right or wrong. So you be honest to yourself. When you're honest, you start to see the good qualities of an honest and right person. Then you can very easily differentiate whether the other person is honest or dishonest. Whether he's the right person for me to walk or better to walk alone. So I was always lucky to make sure I pick that right person. So something I found, I try to always be honest to myself, reflect myself. So doing that, because my relationship, the moment I know how I am handling my own emotions, how I deal with others, I can build a great-minded people, passionate people who can support my dream, so I can go a long journey. So that's how I went. So I recommend you, if you cannot go alone, that's why a lot of people are asking, we don't have funding, all these things, or sometimes I have found people have great ideas, but they don't want to share and expand. The word is share and expand it. So word is, not doing innovation monolithic. Word is all about open innovation network. So you all as entrepreneurs, you can do miracles by connecting with right people. Because sometimes that journey alone may get really frustrated. You can do a lot. I think at the interest of time, let me pause there. So this is something I thought of letting our next generation entrepreneurs just explore that. Everything is not by alone.
Sasmini, can I add something there also, with your permission? Yeah, very, very valid points that Sankalpa was saying, right? I think one point that I missed, which I would like to add is, when you're doing a startup, or if you're getting into entrepreneurship, get your team right. What I mean by that is, now since most of you here are probably in the engineering field, right? That diversity is very important within your team, right? You need to have people with different skill sets within your team, right? If all of you all are engineers, who is going to look after the business side of things, right? Who's going to look after the marketing side of things, right? If all of you are, this is something that I've seen, a mistake that a lot of young people in Sri Lanka, especially coming out of universities, who do, right? All of you all are from the same faculty, from the same department. You all get together, put up a team, and you all come and say, okay, we are going to do this, right? But that diversity is missing, right? If it's all from the computer science department, everyone is from the computer science department. No one seems to know how businesses happen, right? No one seems to know how accounts are done. No one seems to know how marketing is done, right? So that diversity is important, right? Even if you are in a university, you guys might be having, other departments, right? Go and talk to these guys, right? Get them involved in your team, bring them together. This is something that's very important, which I see missing in a lot of programs or a lot of startups who come and pitch in the programs that I've been in, right? When I ask them some business related questions, they're all, stuck, right? So that diversity is important. Bring in that diversity, right? That's something that I want to reiterate at this point. Sasmini?
Thank you, Ahmed. And yes, I think our speakers made quite a few points, really valid and important points about the youth's potential in Sri Lanka to start their own business. And I'll just give a lowdown about like the points that we discussed. That first thing that we established is that youth has a massive potential in becoming an entrepreneur, and you have the right time and the drive to start, and the right mindset and right skills that you improve over a longer time period will define this potential. And it is not everyone's cup of tea to become an entrepreneur, but you might be one of those few people who can actually who has the potential in becoming one. So take that initiative and start one. And if you don't want to be an entrepreneur by yourself, just like what Sankalpa said, like connect with the right people, find people to join your journey and start that. And you will get distracted during this journey. Try not to get distracted. That is the most important point for the youth as well. And inclusivity and diversity of teams that you form together is very important, and something that you need to have a look and have perspective when you are starting off a business. And final point is what we are going to discuss next as well. There are far more than enough resources available, support in the Sri Lankan startup ecosystem that you can reach out to as students, as youth, as like any business owner. So we are going to explore that. In the interest of time, we will run quickly through this, the available resources that can help entrepreneurs and where can we find those. If each speaker can just briefly talk about like organizations or give like start websites or any material that you think like top 5 material or top 5 organizations that you think would be available for these entrepreneurs to reach out, or resources that from your experience, that would be great. And I think if the organizing committee can take down notes and share this list later on with this audience as well, that would also be really good. So let's start with Sachendra, and then we can go to Heminder, Ahmed, and Sankalpa. Yeah.
Sure, I'll quickly show a slide. So something which is different right now, guys, is that about close to 10 years back when we started something, Spiralation and the other programs, for the entire journey of an entrepreneur, from the time that you get inspired, there's something to support you. So this is like the funnel, we call it the entrepreneurship funnel. So there is some program out there which can support you in our ecosystem from the time that you even have the idea to a point where you want to raise your funding. So that's a great thing. And IEEE is a partner of the 10,000 Ideas program. Sorry, this way, 10,000 Ideas program. And then when you go through this competition and when you get selected, maybe top 10, top 20, we'll be working with you guys and connecting you with all the other partners which are there on this panel as well, and seeing where you would fit in. Let's say if you're into agri-tech or doing into mechanical engineering, TRACE as Sankalpa and the TRACE will be able to help you. If you're looking at nano-related area, then SlingTech. If you want to look at other types of green technologies, Heminder and the crew can help. So we can help you connect to these different programs which are there. It's called 10,000 Ideas, and IEEE will directly connect you. If you also want to get connected to any or directly to ICT in some form, but I would say going through this competition, going through IEEE would create a good funnel for you, and that will be good. In terms of understanding the tech space, when you pitch your ideas to see what type of startups have come out in Sri Lanka, go to startupsl.lk. I'll put this in the chat thread, and you will understand the different types of startups which are out there. It will give you a good understanding. And on startupsl.lk, you'll also find the other organizations which are there, which can help you in different forms. But just get an idea of what kind of startups exist in this country. What are the types of businesses that they do? What kind of maturity are they in? Who are the founders? So get some idea on to realize what is that space is like. Thanks.
Thank you, Sachindra. Hemindra?
Yeah, so I think Sachindra very systematically, I think, gave a overview of everything. So thanks, Sachindra. So ICT from the government side, I think that's the most important part, as I see. I think doing a lot of stuff on supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem for Sri Lanka. So I would maybe very quickly, in the interest of time, I will tell you a few things that I am part of it in the last couple of years. And so this Venture Frontier Lanka is an organization that I started with another co-founder. I think we are doing exactly that. And in fact, we have been very vocal a couple of years ago, but now actually we have found a few entrepreneurs and we are really supporting them for a long-term journey. So that's what we do, but there's enough chance for anybody to, connect with us at any time and be a part of our journey as well. Then Slintech, which I was part of it, we were actually supporting the science-based startups. Scientifically, if someone has done a lab level prototype, then how to take it to the next level. And Slintech has its own program as well specifically for science-based startups. Then myself and Sankalpa is part of Trace now. Of course, Sankalpa brought me there. So we are in the board of Trace. So Trace has a model and a different supporting ecosystem for startups as well. We do that in consultation and with support with other organizations as well. So those are the three organizations that I can tell you for any. I mean, because I'm part of it and being a part of it. So if you have any support you need, we are there. And I think we are very much obliged to support any young entrepreneur, someone with entrepreneurial mindset to take their ventures to the next level. So thank you.
Ahmed, over to you.
Thanks. I think Sachindra gave a good start, the different stages of programs that are there. As entrepreneurs, I mean, you need to understand at what stage you are in before you approach any of these programs, right? We used to have a lot of programs happening in the country before 2 years back, right? There was 1 year where I counted, we had about 58 programs that happened throughout the year, which meant that we had more than one program a week happening, right? I think this was in 2019 or 18, something like that, right? Unfortunately, over the last 2 years, due to reasons, that situation has come down. Some of the programs have scaled back and whatnot, but it's starting again, right? I think Startup SL is one resource where you can find some programs. Actually, we have details about the programs also on that site, right?
We have the organization profiles.
Yeah. So you know what are the organizations for supporting startups. So obviously, if you go to some of these websites, you'll find out what are the programs that they have. If you take the program that I support, it's called HackerDev. So it's an umbrella program. We fall under 2 different categories in the funnel that Sachindra mentioned. So if you go to hackerdev.lk, you can find more details. But I would say, get connected to the ecosystem, right? There are follow, maybe if you are into, social media and whatnot, follow most of these social media profiles of these organizations and certain personalities even, right? If that helps, right? You'll find a lot of information there. You will get, from there, you can find the different programs that are there. I mean, right now, I think, yeah, there is about 1 or 2 programs that are open for applications, including IEEE INSL, right? So like this, get to know them. But most importantly, what I would say is, don't apply just for the sake of applying to these programs. Get to know what the program is, right? Because different programs have different objectives, different target audiences or target startups, right? Get to know what that is and then decide whether, and also get to know what the full program is, right? Don't just apply because you see, okay, there's a program, you're getting X amount of money, okay, I'm going to apply, right? Because the program might end up being a program that you all can't bear with sometimes if you don't have the time and if you can't put effort, right? So understand the program very well, whatever the program that is you're going to apply, and then decide, okay, as a team, if you all can, are you able to put in that time and effort, right? Because I'll tell you all this, right? Just like how y'all have to put as participants, as applicants, y'all are putting your time and effort into, building your startup and, applying for these programs. Maybe there is a lot of time and effort and even money spent by these organizations who do these programs, right? So when you apply, you get through the program, and then halfway through when you drop out, that's like, you have, sometimes it feels like you have wasted that resource which someone else could have got also, right? I mean, obviously, if you had tried and if you had failed, I would be the first person to, clap for you, right? Saying that you have learned something, and I will happily let you go out of the program if there is valid reasons for you all to be failing. But if you come and tell me that you all are stopping out of the program because, exams are there, assignments are there, parents' pressure, trust me, you all are going to get an earful from me, right? People have got over the last 2 years from me, right? That has happened. So understand the program. That's one thing I would say. Understand the program very well and see if it fits what you're trying to do, right? See if what the learning you're going to get from the program is what you need, right? And then go into the program, I would say.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. Spoken like a true program manager who has to deal with all the dropouts sometimes. Sankar, what are your thoughts on this?
I think 𝐶𝐻𝐸𝐺𝐬𝐿 𝐬𝐿 has mainly covered all the areas where I should have spoken. I think I was working with both of them for a long time for this ecosystem. And something which I would just add is two things. I think one is, I think ICTA and my involvement with SLASCOM initial days, I think as an industry and government agency, I think we did a lot, and I think we are having fairly well experienced now digital startup ecosystem. Thanks to, I know 𝐶𝐻𝐸𝐺𝐬𝐿 for a long time. He was there from inception. Now we identified, as we discussed, because ICTA mandate is limiting at the digital whatever thing, but as a country, there are a lot of other areas we call the analog areas, especially to take some areas, transportation, energy, minerals, agriculture, education. They are much beyond. If there's something digital, yes, I think ICTA can always do that, but there are a lot of other research, knowledge, know-how has to be happen. So knowing that vacuum, 2019 November, government enabled a similar act like ICTA, that is called National Innovation Agency, but still it is not fully functioning as ICTA, but we managed to somehow get it bootstrapped because we have a government mandate. So I'm part of that part, and where we try to very closely work and learn from 𝐶𝐻𝐸𝐺𝐬𝐿 and ICTA thing, and try to cover the missing all the analog pieces which require a lot of depth. So we don't want to relearn the same thing. So we are going to bring that one. So expect a lot of support from NIA, but still NIA young. And we are creating all these forums, these areas where you would have all the top scientists, knowledgeable people to get you know-how. But still that entrepreneurial journey is with you, and rest of us, what all of you all mentioned, these panelists mentioned, it's there to give you the entrepreneurial journey, but rest of the knowledge and backing, know-how is we try to provide through the NIA. That's one thing. Second one, I think, is Export Development Board. EDB is connecting many different international forums. That's another one place. And EDB is very closely working with ICTA when it comes to digital. Beyond digital areas, now I think we want to figure it out how to give support, because keep in mind, there's a, I think, conception about our people. If it is startup, it is always digital. No, I think there are a lot of things beyond digital, and which is having enormous amount of potential and requirement, right? Just by doing digital, we cannot do. That has to come up. So most of you should focus on how to do that, but understand world is going digital. So each and every next generation business, there's a small, you have to make sure that is parked on digital economy. So hence, again, ICTA support is very valuable. So some two other diaspora connect is something very important. So SLASCOM is trying to connect diaspora. And in addition, personally at Trace and some other level, I'm trying to work some form of diaspora support from Japan Sri Lanka Professional Association, as well as similar one in US Expat Sri Lanka Community something. I cannot remember exact name. So there are such diaspora connections. So we would do our best, especially Japan Sri Lanka Professional Association is trying to bring some of the funding also to Sri Lanka. They are asking for someone who has a product with some paid customers. So at least one customer, they are very much ready to even to invest, bring investment. So good opportunities are there. And we are there together, just pass whatever the information. And we will somehow connect you all with both locally as well as global different forums. And Berlin Asia is there, which is trying to be connected by EDB. And I think BIMSTEC and India are related. Yeah, India is a big market, startup market, where we may be able to squeeze in. A lot of things are there. We'll see how we would be able to open up those international markets with some potential partners. Over to you, Sasmini.
Thank you, Sankata. I think in a nutshell, all our speakers spoke to you about different types of startup support programs available in Sri Lanka, from accelerators to incubators to the different other ecosystem partners. And I think if you actually search on the internet as well, few words like keywords like accelerators in Sri Lanka, incubators in Sri Lanka, ecosystem partners, co-working, mentoring programs, entrepreneurship hubs in Sri Lanka, you will be able to find all these organizations as well. And most importantly, I think industrial reports like SLASCOM, published by SLASCOM, PwC and ICTA and all these for the past few years would give you a very insightful outlook for the Sri Lankan startup ecosystem as well. So those are a few things that are available with IEEE Innovation Nation organizing committee as well, who can share the resources if you get in touch with them too. One more important thing is, if you want to connect with any of these organizations, drop an email, drop a message on their social media. These are very active startup enabling organizations in Sri Lanka. All these names, Trace to SLASCOM to ICT to Venture Frontier Lanka to everything. So yeah, and that concludes all what we were planning to discuss today. And we have so many questions from the audience as well. But in the interest of time, I have picked 2 questions that we can answer, and which is relevant to the discussion we had as well. One question, I will actually post this to Sachindra. This is, the question says, we discussed this already, but if you can provide like a very short and a direct answer to this would also be great. As Sri Lankans, are we really stable enough to start startups and continue financially? So that is the question that is being asked. If you can sort of give an answer to that also, it would be great.
So I think this is the best, I would say, in terms of problem solving, especially when we mentioned entrepreneurship. This is a good time to figure out a particular problem and a business model around it. So when it comes to, I think you're asking in terms of whether it's foreign exchange or whether it's loans that you need or whether it's financial support. In terms of funding, right now we have so many avenues of financial support which are there: angel investment, early stage funding, and corporates like Sankalpa mentioned, Trace and companies coming forward to provide funding support which is required, and even international development agencies want to get on board because of the current situation the country is in. They want to support entrepreneurs. So there are many avenues which are there, both technical assistance and funding related. And it's also bigger corporations like AWS, Microsoft, talking to Google as well, have come on board with various schemes of even providing credit facilities up to $150,000 worth of cloud services. If you're into tech space, you would understand that. That's a huge amount. So a lot of support being provided for startups to start their journey in terms of lowering their cost, helping them meet team members, even recruitment. Express Jobs have tied up with ICT and Startup SL, and it's providing support to find people. So all these areas which you need to start your business, there is support provided, and register of companies to those fiduciary aspects when you really get into it. And there's so much of free legal advice being provided. So all of that is still there. Even though we have our macroeconomic variables being hit, all of those aspects are still there. And we are seeing a growth of the sector, which is especially into technology. I'm talking about beyond digital. In the technology space, we are seeing a growth in the sector. So if there's a growth in the sector, you might as well try to be part of it and get the dividends out of it.
Saswini, can I just add one line? I think to support, this is the best time. Few things, Sri Lanka is, I think, per capita GDP wise, we are suddenly in the, I think, lower income category. Lower income category, there are a lot of grant schemes for startups and these sort of technology development there. Second one is most of the countries which won't, because Sri Lanka, right now, a lot of countries want to bail out. So at this moment, if you clearly look at, US is giving all their, I think, grants are not coming to the government because government is yet to put their act together. But if you look at USA, gave 120 million or something. And I saw a lot of startup companies, including one of our own Trace member company, 𝐬𝐿GA Innovation, they signed MOU. Likewise, they signed with many such startup ecosystem people who are doing sustainable technology development. And I think there's a good chance Sri Lanka may get about close to $1 billion from, I think, Sustainable Development Fund. There's a chance, and it's been tried to be worked out by some of the top officials. It's not been officially published, but personally, I met some world top person during this crisis time. They come here and they pledge. They said they are trying to get some of these things from the sustainable and the environmental related money being accumulated in the world for these special areas. So expect there are a lot of funding is going to be available. So, and on top of that, this is a time where a lot of behaviors are going to be changed. Cycling is there, and green energy, all these areas, new areas, there would be sustainable agriculture. The moment you add a sustainable and get into these sort of things, there would be funding very soon. Like, get ready.
Thank you, Sankaka. I think we will, if Ahmed and Hemant doesn't have any thoughts to add, I think we can conclude the session today. About the question.
Yeah, I think I agree with what he said. You know, a very interesting time to be, and there are lots of problems that need solutions right now. So if you guys can take on those challenges and maybe see what are the solutions available out there, by the time we get out of the crisis, you guys can be on top potentially, and be able to win over the market. So let's see where this goes, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Hemant, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so I think I agree with all of the other panelists, what they say. So where the countries, I mean, we are in a country crisis situation, yes, true, but that doesn't mean that a good entrepreneur has always enough potential areas to get support, either funding wise or any technical support or anything. So I think being in a crisis situation, I think you will see a lot of other areas where you can get support. I think so. You have to be lookout for that. and make sure that you grab the opportunity at the right time. So I think if any of the entrepreneurs who are in this session, if you want to get any help, I can give that help personally as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that question, we have to conclude the session due to the interest of time. And thank you everyone for the insightful and very real conversation about why Sri Lanka needs entrepreneurship in this crisis. And I think we covered a lot of ground about starting from why to then the potential of youth, and then like where can they find information and resources and everything. And we all are walking away with many insights and learnings about our startup ecosystem today, including me. And startup ecosystem of Sri Lanka is a very vibrant community full of very talented and skillful people. And I invite everyone here today to utilize this information we have provided and join the ecosystem, and start your startup journey, start your start your business today without delaying it anymore. And I would like to hand over the proceedings to the organizing committee now.
Thank you, Ms. Aswini, for flawlessly moderating the discussion. Applications are now being called for INSL 2022. If you are after A-levels, an undergraduate or a fresh graduate dreaming of becoming a valued entrepreneur, here's your chance to show off your innovations. You can register to the program using the link that will be posted in the chat right now. This year at INSL, there are 2 sections you can apply for, namely idea stage for ideation level applications and business stage for those who have a business or a product which can be launched to the market. This ensures fair competition. You are encouraged to attach presentations or pitch decks as they will add value to your application. This year, there will be a provincial competition for the idea stage applicants, and 3 winners will be selected from each province with the motive of further increasing the chance of winning. Team formation is not compulsory. One can apply individually or as a team. If it's a team submission, only the team leader needs to fill the application, and one team can submit more than one idea. This is a basic level application, and our main focus is to get the innovative idea from the applicants. If you're interested, you too can apply for INSL 2022 using the link posted in the chat. Dear guest speakers, thank you once again for sparing your valuable time and imparting your wisdom to overcome Sri Lanka's crisis through startups. To express our gratitude, we would like to present you with a digital token of appreciation. Please accept these tokens of appreciation. Dr. Sankalpa Gamwarige, Mr. 𝐿 Mr. Sachindra Samaratna, Mr. Ahmed Nishad, and finally, Ms. Saswini Bandara. Once again, our heartfelt gratitude goes out to all our guest speakers. The time has now come to take the official photograph. We would appreciate it if all the participants could switch on their cameras and give us your best smiles as our team It was indeed our pleasure to have all of you on board, and to express our gratitude, I would like to invite the Secretary of INSL 2022, Senuri Ranatunga, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Wendy. Good evening to all of you. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Innovation Nation Sri Lanka 2022. Our esteemed guest panelist for the day, Mr. Ahmed Nishad, Tech for Development Lead at UNDP Sri Lanka and Citra Social Innovation Lab, Dr. Sankalpa Gambarige, Managing Director at Nagro Private Limited, Mr. Sachindra Samararatna, Associate Chief Digital Economy Officer at ICTA, Mr. 𝐬𝐿𝐵𝐿, Co-founder and Director of Venture Frontier Lanka, and our moderator for the day, Ms. Saswini Bandara, Mission Accomplishment Officer at 𝐿ife 𝐿𝐵𝐿. We are very much grateful to you for sharing your knowledge on why Sri Lanka needs entrepreneurship in this crisis, together with your success story to motivate our audience. We also wish to express our gratitude to Mr. Dhammika Marasinghe, Chairperson of the IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka, and other representatives of YPSL for being present here with us today, despite your busy schedule, and for your constant support and guidance throughout the time. To all who joined us today, we are very much delighted by your presence here with us, and we believe you gained a good insight from this discussion. Last but not least, this session would not be successful without the support of our organizing committee, along with the provincial coordinators and university representatives. Thank you for your support throughout this session. Once again, we all would like to extend our sincere gratitude to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senuri. Before wrapping up the session, this is a quick reminder that you too can apply for INSL 2022. Hurry up and grab this opportunity via the link displayed by sending in your applications. In our wake, we leave behind enlightened minds with the potential to change the world. I am Venus Zaratna, signing off from the Hustle Story 2022. Good night.